Hola, bienvenidos, mi gente. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to be here with y'all. Oh my God, we are still vibrating from the Benito Bowl. I don't know if there was any Latino in the US whose eyes were dry as he called out all of the countries in the Americas. I know que la tenía la piel en pollito, like I had like chicken skin, and that I literally was dancing and suddenly I stopped because I was crying, and my husband's sitting there watching me, and I'm like, I mean, something that I was discussing with a friend of mine about how a lot of us Latinos, we don't have a lot of TV shows. They keep canceling them out, right? 1, 2 seasons and bye. So many good shows have not been given the full chance that I think other shows have been given. And, I think we've been maligned and attacked for a long, long time. And most of the time, Latinos have been so objectified, right? Sexualized, objectified. It feels like the main culture wants our sazon, wants our pasión, wants our energy. It doesn't want us. And what an amazing tribute to Latinidad, to cultura, to the diversity of it all. So I'm still buzzing. I'm still joyful. It's an interesting thing because I found several people from South America just angry that he got a Grammy, angry that he's representing, immigrant thought. He's not an inmigrante. People kind of mad at me online. And I'm like, you don't get it, and it's okay. Not everything is for everybody. And we need to be aware of that. Some people who are in other countries, as Latinos, they don't even see themselves as Latinos. They're Chileans, they're Venezuelans, they're Dominican. They're not from here, or all of us are together, and we wind up losing or letting go of or releasing or maybe expanding our identities. We're not just Argentine, we're not just Mexican. We also become Latinos here in the US as we gather here. And people who are out of the country don't often get it. So yes, I'm still buzzing. I'm still loving. I'm still excited. I hope that you are also seeing what I see, which is a celebration of our humanity and our cultura. I mean, when he went to wake up the little kid who was asleep at the party, I screamed because I was that little kid when I was little. And my siblings were that little kid. So So thank you, Benito. Anyway, coming into this week, there's a new moon actually, we're here. I'm recording this on the 10th, so it's a week from now. So for once, I'm doing this like a little bit in advance because I'm traveling, and I wanted to get this out because I have been falling behind because it's been a lot. A lot of changes I'm going to be sharing soon, a lot of things that are exciting. But I think you all know that I've been performing a lot and spending a lot of time and focus on creative endeavors. I find that most of us online wind up spending all our time on taking care of ourselves, building our business, either travel, familia. And I joined, this Harrisburg Improv Theater 9 years ago. Now I'm a level 1 teacher, and I teach in New York, and I teach in other spaces, and I coach, and I'm on a million teams. I think it really opened up my creativity. So if you have been devoting yourself a lot to familia and work or business, I do urge you this year, with a couple of the different transits we got going on, to maybe focus in on another aspect of yourself that maybe you had to give up in order to focus on familia, or focus on health, or focus on making money in abundance, or climbing the career ladder, or building the business. Because es hora, no es tiempo. We also get to be more than just people who have to work in order to support our lives and or take care of families. And I know that's an important thing. At the same time, our creativity, our passion, our pleasure, our leisure, our time off, our creativity, our joy also gets to be highlighted this year with a couple of external planets going into fire. So today we're talking about a powerful lunation. It is the new moon on February 17th, coming up next week, which arrives as a solar eclipse in Aquarius. Now, eclipses are not ordinary new moons. A typical new moon invites us, to release the old, to plant new seeds that will develop over the next 6 months. And an eclipse just heightens that energy, right? An eclipse clears the ground first and removes what isn't aligned, so something truer can take root. Aquarius is the sign of the visionary, the humanitarian, the innovator, the outsider, the community builder. So this eclipse is not just personal, it's carrying a collective tone. And with all of the shifts that are happening in the external planets that are big, collective movements and also affecting us, this is also inviting us to innovate in our own lives and to be open to what doesn't serve us as we move into this new cycle of who we are and how we're living on Madre Tierra. So the eclipse is not just personal, as I said earlier, it is also collective force. It is asking us questions about the future, about belonging, and about authenticity. You may feel this energy is restless because Aquarius, contrary to the word aqua in it, right? Because you're like, agua. No, girl. It is aire, right? It's air. And it's like the woman pouring the water bearer, pouring the water into the people, putting the compassion, the love, and the nurturing. And we can do that to humanity through our renovating our ideas, updating our ideas. Aquarius is the mind, humanitarian. How are we all going to make it through together? We've seen a world that's been focused on only the rich and the billionaires, but how are we going to make it through together? How do we get to have a sustainable life? How do we get to have a life where there's more connection and community? These are some of the questions that Aquarius is highlighting for us. It's really inviting us to reset the future. You may feel it is restless. You may have a desire for change. You may also have a growing awareness that some of the old patterns simply no longer fit, right? And the episode is about understanding that energy. I have some notes here that I'll be looking at just sporadically if you see me go like this. But it's about learning how to work with it and rather than against it. Before we go into what a solar eclipse is and what it means, I do want to say this. Clarity and communication has always been big for me. I have a sun in Taurus, so I'm super crazy ass loyal. And then I have the moon, Mercury, and my rising in Gemini. Now, Gemini gets a bad rap, two-faced, this and that. I say we look into the past, we look into the future. We have many ways of looking at things. I think that every sign has different evolutions of health, right? If you're healthier, you're going to be a healthier Taurus or a healthier Scorpio. If you're still dealing with a lot of trauma and you're not feeling healthy and having the capacity to make the right choices for yourself, you might act out or act as and take on behavior patterns of an unhealthy Scorpio, of an unhealthy Taurus. And so for me, Gemini has always been about clarity of communication, about as my higher self told me today that I've always been above board. My higher self told me today, you're not perfect because no one is. You've always attempted to be above board. You've always wanted. And I'm like, what does above board even mean? ¿Qué quiere decir eso? Like higher self knows things that I do not know. So I had to Google that. And I was like, okay, honest, clear, yes. Like if I can't do something, I want to tell you. And I can remember 1 or 2 times in college where I didn't tell people. I was procrastinating on something because I was overwhelmed and I felt really bad. So yeah, I've always been above board because I don't like how it feels to not be. And I'm finding that a lot of people, especially women, have been taught to survive and thrive in the world by keeping secrets, right? And keeping things close to the chest. Now, we don't have to tell everybody your business, right? But if you're collaborating or working with people, it is really important to keep them updated. So when they're making plans, they're not counting on you in a way that then you're actually really not available because you haven't communicated. So there's so many things. And these things have been coming through to me as I prepare for major life changes. And there's going to be an expansion in my business in a whole different way that I'm excited about. And also about how when we're up leveling and we're changing, there are a lot of people that are still very focused on remaining as they are, whatever that means to them, in their comfort zone, being focused on the negative of everything because there's still trauma, not wanting to shift things or change things because they don't feel strong enough to carry out the change. That's fine. That's their journey, even if it's your journey. There's no judgment in that. The thing is, when people aren't transparent or clear with us of where they stand on something, people who are like, yeah, I got it, yeah, and you're like, what? So it's really important. We've got this new moon in Aquarius. Jupiter's going into Gemini in a bit, not right now. Not Jupiter, sorry. Jupiter's in Cancer. It's not going into Leo to the summer. But Uranus, right, is going into Gemini soon. And right now we have many planets in Aquarius shifting into Pisces. There's a lot about delusion, breaking delusion, telling the truth. And what you might find is that there are people that you have been making excuses for many years, even 14 years, even 20 years, even 10 years. Then now you really are just going to look at the pattern in the face of how they are and be like, okay, it's not for me. That doesn't mean the friendship ends. It doesn't mean, but it means that you know who can go with you into the next phase of your life and who can't. I don't really agree in, just cutting people out in a very extreme way unless you really feel you need to. But at the same time, it's a time of assessing who gets to come with me on the next part of the journey, who is really healthy enough, who is really up to the task. Because again, when we're getting healthier and making choices that are healthy and aligned for us, people who are holding back or want to be in their shadows or unconsciously are doing it may not be too thrilled for you. So just remember that this is a new moon. It's shining the light on the collective and humanity, and you might see patterns pop out that you've been putting up with just to have friends, because Aquarius is also ruler of friendships, right? Or just to be accepted in community. But this is a great opportunity for us to create a different community. And creating a different community begins with us understanding what does work for us, what doesn't work, what we've been putting up, and how we've been limiting ourselves. Okay? So what is a solar eclipse? Let's talk about it for a moment. A new moon always represents beginnings. We know this, but a solar eclipse amplifies that energy. It often coincides with turning points, sudden realizations, or events that shift our trajectory. One important thing is to understand that the eclipses aren't about forcing outcomes. They are about alignment. They tend to reveal what is ready to change. So if you're like beginning to notice these patterns within yourself and the world and the collective and coming to realizations, if the mindset or the choice that you have limits you, somehow shrinks you, then I would invite you to assess that mindset and that belief, right? Because maybe while it's keeping you safe, it's not really allowing you to be fully yourself. So how do we keep ourselves safe with boundaries? And that's by us establishing them. Not focusing on other people or saying, well, I told them. No, it doesn't matter what you told them. What are you telling yourself? And how are you carrying yourself in these relationships, right? And creating boundaries that you're going to stand up for yourself. I hope I'm making sense because this is like coming through. So a lot of things that are ready to change are going to show themselves. Sometimes it can look dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle. Sometimes it's an inner decision, a new perspective, or the courage to move in a different direction. Eclipses can also bring clarity. Something that has been unclear suddenly makes sense. Something that has felt stuck begins to move, right? And the thing is, rather than asking, what should I make happen? What am I going to do? How am I changing things? Right? Because it's our act. We're going to change. We're going to force. We're going to do. What is already unfolding? And how can I participate consciously? I love that. What is already unfolding? And how can I participate consciously? Because sometimes, life comes in and drags us kicking and screaming into change. We also get to be, we get to adult and we get to go in and do it de una manera consciente. Let's talk about Aquarius, right? So Aquarius energy is often misunderstood. It's not just about being a rebel or rebellion for its own sake. Aquarius is about evolution. It asks us, how can we improve our systems? How can we think differently? How can we join consciously with what we're noticing? How can we create a future that is more humane, more just, more fair, more innovative? On a personal level, Aquarius asks, where am I not fully being myself? Okay, get that one. Where am I not fully being myself? Where am I shrinking to fit expectations? Where am I ready to think differently about my life? And that's really important. Where am I ready to think differently about my life? Now, Aquarius also rules community, not superficial connection, but finding your people. So this is a really blessed event that's happening. It's a great opportunity for us. We may bitch and moan about community and there's no community. Well, why can't you be the change that you wish to see in the world, right? It's calling in the ones who see you clearly. It is the ones who share your vision and your values. This eclipse may bring new connections, new collaborations, or on a deeper level, it will bring something to you that is much more meaningful. I think that this is an invitación to a bigger awakening of our place in the universe. And what is our purpose here? And maybe resetting, adjusting, reaffirming. And I feel like my purpose is expanding, right? And so a reflection that really you might lean into is, where in my life am I ready to be more authentic, even if it feels uncomfortable at first? Where in my life am I ready to be more authentic, even if it feels more uncomfortable at first? Now, the great thing about astrology is that it doesn't happen in isolation, right? All los planetas, all of them are dancing together, moving together in different ways, in different forms, interacting with each other. Saturn in Aries represents discipline. We know that, right? It's like a structure, responsibility. Aries represents courage, action, fire, and initiative. Together, Saturn, the disciplinarian going into Aries, asks us to act with maturity. It's not about impulsive. It's about courageous action guided by wisdom. This is the energy of stepping forward even when you feel uncertain, but doing so with intention and commitment. There's some things that I'm preparing to step into, and I'm like, I don't know how it's going to happen. But then again, I didn't know that I was going to be online for 14 years successfully supporting myself full time. Like I don't have other jobs. My business is my business and I support myself. So I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I stepped out on faith. And so this is another time in the cycles of astrology where we're being asked to step out on faith and to be guided by courage. Now, there's another question that is coming to heart, which is, where is life asking you to take responsibility for your own direction? Where is life asking you to take responsibility for your own direction? Now, this hits home because the things that I see online, a lot of people get thousands of views who are influencers, who don't actually make a living with services, etc. They're just, influencers, they're creatives, they're great. But a lot of us who shared about certain political things have been a bit shadow banned. Hello. And I look into the future of having to battle with AI online and so many other things. And I'm like, how can I take responsibility for the direction of my purpose, my calling, and my sacred work on earth? This is a way to do it, to apply it. So right now, Venus is in Pisces. It softens the intensity. It was in Aquarius. Now it went into Pisces. And Pisces brings compassion, imagination, spiritual depth. This placement reminds us that not everything is solved through logic, that we have to allow our heart to lead. And some things are healed through kindness, creativity, and presence. This is a beautiful time for art, meditation, restoring our emotional balance. For all of you who took Reiki with me, get your Reiki on and just run it through your body. Because it's important for us to lead with vision, but not to lose our tenderness, to build a future with an open heart, right? Easier said than done, but we need to. What this eclipse may bring, right? So eclipses often correlate with shifts in friendships. We talked about that earlier. Communities, professional networks, creative direction, communication and technology, personal identity. You may notice a stronger desire for freedom, not a rebellion for rebellion's sake, but freedom to live more honestly. Some roles may begin to feel outdated. Some relationships may evolve. Some new paths may appear unexpectedly. Not every change happens immediately, and it will happen eventually. Sometimes the eclipse plants a seed that unfolds over the next 6 months. And so really it's important for us to be curious over anxious, because it's easy to be anxious with everything that's going on. Here are some ways that we could work with this, right? How can we ground this energy? A strategic reset. So look at your life. Let's pull out a journal. And let's look at it practically through the lens of an air sign. What is working? What isn't? What needs to be simplified or restructured? Because Aquarius energy favors clear thinking and long-term vision, right? So how do we lean into authentic leadership? This doesn't mean that we're leading others or we're going to go, and try to get promoted or start a business. It just means leading your own life with honesty, speaking truthfully, making choices aligned with your values. Stop negotiating with those parts of yourself that already know the answer. A lot of times we know the answer, but we are negotiating because we want to keep our friendships, we want to be liked, we want to keep our comfort zone, we want to keep our safety. It's time to trust a little more and let go a little more and step out on faith and be honest, right? How do we embrace this change? The unexpected may bring opportunities, so stay flexible. Stay open to unconventional solutions. Some of the best paths don't look logical at first. They're like, hey, this is what's coming for you. And you're like, what? No quiero, por favor. So remember, this is a powerful time for reflection. Don't make impulsive choices. Journaling, meditation, walking in quiet places, running your Reiki, level 1 peoples, listening deeply to your thoughts. Inner clarity creates outer change. Focus on that. Don't think you have to know all the answers. So many people think, if I only was psychic like you, Vanessa, I would know everything. I'm like, child, I don't know everything. I know a lot, though. I could tell you more about yourself and your path that I could know maybe about mine, because I know mine in retrospect. I know hints of what's coming. And then there are a lot of things that I got to fill in by living, right? The invitation to truly live and embody your truth as it unfolds and moves through you, as we make decisions in real time. The thing is, if we're living authentically, if we're living grounded in our truth and in our values and who we are, it becomes easier to make those decisions in the moment as we move through in our own becoming, because we're already deeply rooted in who we already are. So that's really what this is calling into place, is being rooted, being more authentic, and looking at our businesses, our careers, our lives, our health, and looking at it with a long-term vision of how is this going to be sustainable for my future. So again, more journaling thoughts, which would be, what part of my life feels ready for a reset? Where am I being invited to be more authentic? What future am I quietly ready to step into, even if I don't know all the steps? That's what we talked about earlier. Okay, what future am I quietly ready to step into, even if I don't know all the steps yet? Whew. I would like to hear from you. What future are you ready to step into, even if you don't know all the steps? I, for one, am ready to step into a more cohesive, just, equitable, and equal world where no one is suffering, and there's enough food, and there's enough jobs, and there's enough support for everyone. I've always wanted that, and peace in the world. And while it may seem like a lofty dream, I'm still holding true to it, that even if it doesn't happen in my lifetime, that my descendants will enjoy that, and yours. This solar eclipse in Aquarius reminds us that the future is not something distant. It's already taking shape within us through our choices, our courage, our willingness to grow. Change doesn't have to be dramatic to be meaningful. It could be quiet, as you chopping a carrot in your kitchen or preparando, some comida deliciosa, and getting an awareness. Sometimes the most powerful shifts begin quietly with a single honest decision. The invitation here is to trust the timing of your life, to trust the wisdom of your intuition, and to remember that becoming fully ourselves is not selfish. It's necessary. As we step into greater embodiment, as we root ourselves into our values and in our truth, we can hold space for the great transformation of humanity and the collective. Thank you for being here. Ha sido un gran placer. If you have any questions, if you'd like to do a session, I'm here for you. I'm still booking sessions. You may not see me because, the powers that be sometimes don't show me. Pero I'm here. Mucho amor. And I'm excited for this new moon.